Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great week so far. Some of you may be at work today getting ready to get off and start your Thanksgiving week. And today I want to talk about how to trim that holiday stress out. A lot of you are wondering how you're going to manage it all between taking care of your kids and trying to get all the activities done, and what about these extended family members that may or may not be easy to get along with. There are a lot of stressors that happen, not just during Thanksgiving, but in the following season as we enter that Christmas season. We can end up with a lot of pressure to try to get everything perfect, to try to get everything done, to make sure that it all fits in, and then how do you sleep somewhere in between? So I'm here to talk to you about how to make the holidays a time of celebration again, how to return to the joy of the holidays instead of living under that pressure. And I've got some tips on my blog at divineencouragement.com so that you can check all those out, all listed for you if you miss anything here today. One of the things that I want to talk to you about when it comes to trimming holiday stress, it's very important to set boundaries and to set priorities. Priorities come first. That's got to be the first thing that you think about. When it comes to holidays, you can't do it all, and you shouldn't put the expectation on yourself or allow anyone else to try to put the expectation on you that you should try to do it all. And remember, above all other things, the why is always more important than the what. If you can keep your why straight, you'll know which what is actually significant. Think in terms of what has a long-term spiritual value. Those activities should be your top priorities. The things that are going to matter are the time that you spend with people that are benefiting from you and that you are benefiting from. People whose lives you are mutually enriching. So those are going to be those long-term spiritually meaningful things that you do during the holidays. If you get all of the Christmas decorations up on time and they all look perfect, that is not going to be as important. Consider the consequences if you omit something. Is it really that important? Is it really that critical? If you're a perfectionist, this may be a time to kind of step back and say, where should I be a perfectionist and where should I not be a perfectionist? It's not necessarily always a bad thing to be perfect, and the things of the Spirit are good because you can only be as perfect as Christ can make you. You're not going to ever be totally perfect until you get to heaven, but to be striving for excellence in the things of the Spirit is actually a good thing. But to be always trying to strive for perfection in things that are never going to be perfect, things that are just things, can wear you out, and it can make you less perfect in the things that matter. And the things that matter are going to be your relationships and your fulfilling of the calling of God. Now, try to set those draining activities or the unnecessary activities. I don't really need to be the one who does this. I don't really need to even do this. So those things need to go to the bottom of your list. And sometimes it takes really thinking about it to decide which things are a priority and which aren't during the holidays. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean you need to still do it. And somebody else telling you you need to still do it doesn't make it necessary. So delegate. And delegating can be good for other people. Equip other people to learn how to do certain things. Just because you've always made the turkey doesn't mean you should be the only one who knows how to make the turkey. Invite other people to come alongside you and do some other things. Maybe it's okay if someone else makes corn pudding, and if they make it differently than you do, hey, you've learned a new recipe for corn pudding. It's not the end of the world, really. And if you can be nice about it, it really isn't the end of the world. Learning to be nice and not to sweat the small stuff is really, really important. And those people who have a hard time with it, kind of coming alongside them and saying, you know what, I love you anyway, but we're going to have a good holiday because of that, not because of who made the pecan pie. Don't allow anything to rob your soul. Don't allow anything to steal the joy out of your holiday. Don't allow you to become the person that robs other people's soul of joy either. When you start to focus on the minutia of the holidays, that's when you become the Grinch, the worst person at the holiday meal. So try to avoid letting yourself become that by not stressing yourself out. And to do that, you're going to have to set boundaries. You're going to have to set boundaries between yourself and other people. And boundaries mean, this is where I stop and you begin. I'm responsible for me and being who God calls me to be. You're responsible for you. And poor boundaries look like someone else trying to tell you that you're responsible for their well-being and their feelings. Or they're trying to control you and take responsibility for what you should do and what you should say. Those things are showing a poor line, a poor boundary line. And that's often a problem. That's a really common problem. We aren't raised in perfect homes. So we often have these issues with where I stop and where you begin. And that's important to having a good, healthy holiday gathering with other people. So setting boundaries with other people, but also just setting boundaries in your schedule. Know your limits. How much can I do during a day? And live within those limits. Don't try to exceed what your capacity is. And you need to sketch that out. What is your threshold for time? How much time do you really have? What is your threshold for physical stamina? How much energy do I have to put into this during a day? What's your emotional threshold? You may want to go honor those parents, those extended family members, those neighbors, those friends of friends, the coworkers that are not the easiest people to get along with. What's your threshold emotionally of being able to be present with them and show grace? There may be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but it might not be 7 days. You need to know that about yourself. How much of this can you sustain and continue to be the person God calls you to be under those circumstances? So know your thresholds. Know your thresholds for your mental capacity. What can you remember before you have to write down a list? Most of us need to write a list. And as we get older, not because we're stupid when we get older. I just want to make sure you all understand this. This is not because we're losing our mental capacity. It's just full. We have so much information, so much memory back there. We've learned so many things that once we get older, we need to write things down so that it doesn't take up short-term memory RAM. So we need to make sure that we write down lists and know how much you need to write down and sketch out so that you can remember it. How much can you do physically? How much can you do mentally? How much can you do emotionally? Set a guideline and decide it ahead of time, and don't let people catch you unawares. So determine what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do ahead of time. And state that. Hey, you know what? I love you. This is what I'm willing to do. I'm not willing to do that, but I am willing to do this. And you can say it nicely. And sometimes people are taken aback when you set a boundary the first time, but they'll either get used to it or they'll move on with their life. And that's okay. You need healthy people in your life. So being able to set boundaries gives other people an opportunity to be their best self. I could spend an entire live post talking about boundaries. It's a big subject, but it's important not to enslave yourself to somebody else's emotional state. You need to have the freedom to be you. You can't control other people's emotions. You can't make somebody else happy. Nor can they make you happy. You're either going to be happy or you're not. They're either going to be happy or they're not. You just need to be who God calls you to be at any given time. And if you are who God calls you to be, then that person can choose to respond to that by being happy or not, by not being happy, depending on what's going on with them. That is not your job. That is God's job, to work with their emotions and help them get healing. You can be part of that, but it isn't your ultimate, solely your responsibility. So that's very important to understand. Jesus Christ did not attempt to please everybody. So if you have a problem with people pleasing, this is a good year to start undoing that. And that doesn't mean you start displeasing everyone. It just means that you need to stop becoming enslaved to pleasing everyone. Remember that enabling is not helping. Enabling means you're crippling other people from being independent of you, that they are going to constantly seek all of their energy and all of their needs and all of their support from you without ever being able to support themselves. And you're not helping them by doing that. You're crippling them. So remember, enabling is not helping, it's crippling. Respect other people's boundaries too. If people decide they don't want to visit or they don't want to do this or that, be respectful and try not to push. Love neither suffocates nor controls. And consider that like the way you would hold a butterfly in your open hand when you're offering it nectar. Make sure you're not crushing the butterfly. And that's how we should treat the people that we love in our lives. Don't crush them, but hold out your hand to them and invite them to stay a while. That's how a healthy relationship looks. So the next thing I want to talk about, because I could go on forever about boundaries, that's a whole topic, but restore meaning to the season. That is so very, very important to remember your why. Like I said at the very beginning, know your why and don't let the what eclipse the why. Leave white space in your calendar because unexpected things, especially during the holidays, are going to happen. There are so many things that your kids are going to come to you at the last minute and say, oh, I forgot to tell you, tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, I have to do this. And those things are going to happen because even your spouse may forget that they had a party scheduled and when it's going to be. So make sure that you leave enough white space to allow for that. There's still going to be things that'll happen that'll crowd into each other, and that's when your priorities and your boundaries will come into play. But make sure you've got white space so that you have enough time to de-stress too, because you need margin in order to sharpen yourself so you can be your best self at those events where you're gathering other people, at those celebrations, so you can continue to have joy to celebrate. If you have no margin and you have no white space, there's no room for the Spirit of God to enter your life. So that's very, very important. Allow yourself time to breathe, to refuel, to center upon Christ. You can't offer what you don't have. And if you don't take time to receive it, you won't have it to give. So take time to monitor your thoughts. When are those negative emotions taking over your mind? Are you starting to get anxious and worried and stressed over little minutia? Weed out those parasites of negativity before they take over all the landscape of your brain. And then take time to replant with positive thinking, with truth, with scripture. If you have that white space, that margin, you will be able to do that. And so in solitary and fellowship activities, make sure that you take time to have quiet moments. You can have quiet moments with people, moments of silence, moments of just taking a collective deep breath and relaxing. We can include this in our celebration times. At your Thanksgiving table, hold hands and say, let's just take a time to take a deep breath and remember why we are here together, why we are thankful, why we celebrate Thanksgiving at all. It's because we are thankful to have one another, and we're thankful that God provides for us when we know we cannot do it ourselves. So the next thing that comes along with that margin is keeping an eye on your health. You don't have to throw your health out the window just because it's the holiday season. You can still take good care of yourself. You can still get in a little exercise. You can be creative about how to do a couple of squats while you're waiting. You can take a few extra steps, park farther away, and walk briskly as you go into the store. You can do some things to add in a little exercise, some stretching exercises while you're waiting in a waiting room. You can even do deep breathing exercises. No one's going to see it and know. You're just sitting there breathing in the waiting room. But you can do some relaxation breathing and some mental imagery that you combine with prayer while you're waiting. So there are all kinds of ways to focus on your health, but be careful about your diet. Sugar is fun during the holidays, but you can use some alternatives to sugar and keep it healthy as much as possible, and you can do it in moderation instead of overdoing it. Sugar is an inflammatory agent, so it will make you more tired and more achy. So be careful about overdoing the sugar because it will make you more likely to be grouchy and grinchy. And sometimes the things that we think are the most fun are the things that make Christmas less fun. So just be careful how much extra fat and starch and sugar you put in. You can do a little, and a little is okay. Just make sure you don't overdo it. Also, make sure you get sleep. Please don't tell me that you're going to sleep when you're dead, or that you're going to wait until January to sleep, because by the time you get to January, you'll be sick. The body needs to sleep. And if you don't give your body rest, your body will make you get rest. You will end up getting every little bug that is floating around if you're not well rested. So if you don't want to be forced to rest with snot rags all around you, make sure that you take the time to rest ahead of time. And that way you won't have to be coughing and covering yourself in Vicks and all kinds of other unpleasant ways to spend the holidays. So the better you do self-care, the better you can prevent those needs for an unpleasant time out. So stretch, discharge your stress with cardio workouts. When you're getting stressed out, do something very active and vigorous and get all that negative energy out of your system. Gardening, housework. If you have to do it anyway, you might as well work out your stress while you're doing it. Write out what's upsetting you on a piece of paper, stick it in your shoe and grind it out into the insole of your shoe. Another thing that you can do is you can take that piece of paper that you write something stressful out, and after you're done with all that cardio, you can put it into your Bible pages and pray and release that matter to God in prayer. But first, get all the stress out with the cardio and then do the relaxation breathing and the meditation and prayer. Make sure you're taking time to nourish your body, to nourish your brain, to hydrate, drink water, not just soda and punch. But make sure you're taking good care of yourself. So what are your favorite ways to trim holiday stress? If you have some favorite ways, hop on over to divineencouragement.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. It's so good to see you today, and I hope that you have a blessed and nourishing Thanksgiving and that you remember to celebrate, not stress. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.